Professor Harlan Whitaker's voice sliced through the lecture hall like a whip. "Who let this black kid into my classroom?" 23 years of tenure, a six-figure salary, untouchable. You, back row, the black one. Stand up. Malik Parker rose in silence. Whitaker laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "Look at this. A black face in advanced number theory. Food stamps, Section 8 housing. Did your welfare caseworker fill out your application? Or did some diversity committee drag you here to meet their quota?" He snatched the chalk. "I'm going to write an impossible equation. PhDs have failed, geniuses have quit, and you, ghetto trash. You're going to prove why black kids don't belong in real mathematics." The chalk screamed across the board. Malik stared at the equation. What Whitaker did next would cost him everything: his career, his reputation, his deepest secret. Because Professor Harlan Whitaker had no idea, not a single clue, and that ignorance would destroy him. Malik Parker was 19, a sophomore at Briarwood University, the youngest student in advanced number theory by 2 full years. Every day he sat in the back row, same seat, same corner, the spot where nobody looked twice. He never raised his hand, never volunteered answers, never showed anyone what he could really do. His homework was correct but unremarkable, a B+ average. Nothing special, nothing threatening. That was intentional. See, Malik had learned something early, a lesson his grandmother taught him when he was just a boy. Don't let them see everything you've got. Save something for when you need it. Being seen had a cost. Being noticed meant being targeted. In his neighborhood, in his schools, in every space where black boys were expected to fail. So Malik made himself invisible, a ghost in plain sight. But here's what nobody knew, what nobody could have guessed. Malik Parker had been solving graduate-level mathematics since he was 15. Self-taught. No tutor, no prep school, no expensive programs, no connections, just him, late nights, cold coffee, and a stack of notebooks he found in his grandmother's attic when he was 13. Those notebooks changed everything. They didn't belong to Malik. They belonged to his father, a man named Damien Parker, who died when Malik was only 6 years old. Malik barely remembered him. Just fragments. A warm hand on his shoulder. The smell of chalk dust on clothing. A deep voice saying words that burned into his memory forever. "Numbers don't lie, son. People do." That was it. That was all he had of his father. A sentence, a feeling, a ghost. His mother never talked about Damien. Whenever Malik asked questions, she changed the subject, her eyes going distant, her voice tightening. Eventually, Malik stopped asking. His grandmother wasn't much better. She'd just shake her head and say, "Your daddy was a good man. The world wasn't good to him." For 13 years, that was all Malik knew. His father was good. The world was cruel. End of story. Then he found the notebooks, hidden in the attic, covered in dust, waiting for him. Pages and pages of equations, proofs, theories, mathematical ideas that Malik couldn't even begin to understand, and margin notes, hundreds of them, written in handwriting that felt strangely familiar. Malik didn't know it then, but he was looking at his father's mind, his father's dreams, his father's unfinished work. It took years to decode. Malik would come home from school, ignore his homework, and study those notebooks instead, teaching himself piece by piece, symbol by symbol. By 15, he wasn't just reading his father's work, he was continuing it. By 19, he was quietly, invisibly, one of the most talented mathematicians at Briarwood University. And nobody knew. Not his professors, not his classmates, not even his mother. Malik kept his gift hidden, protected, saved for when he needed it. He didn't know that moment was coming. He didn't know a decades-old secret was about to explode. He didn't know his father's past was waiting for him in a Briarwood classroom. Now let me tell you about the man at the front of that classroom. Professor Harlan Whitaker, the man who thought he was untouchable. Whitaker was 58, tenured for 22 years, published in journals most mathematicians only dreamed about. He ran his classroom like a kingdom, and he was the king. Students called his course the graveyard where GPAs went to die, where dreams got buried, where ambitious young minds learned their place. Whitaker liked it that way. He enjoyed the fear, the power, the control. He prided himself on maintaining standards. His favorite phrase, said at every faculty meeting, every department review, every time someone questioned his methods. I'm maintaining standards, weeding out students who don't belong. He never specified what don't belong meant. He didn't have to. Everyone understood. 3 formal complaints of racial bias in 5 years. 3 black students who said Whitaker targeted them, humiliated them, drove them out. All 3 complaints dismissed. Insufficient evidence. Whitaker had friends in the administration, powerful friends, the kind who made problems disappear. But Whitaker had a secret, one he'd been hiding for decades, and it was about to walk right through his door. Every few years, a student would slip through Whitaker's filters. Someone who didn't fit his image of excellence, someone who looked different, sounded different, came from the wrong neighborhood, and every time, Whitaker found a way to put them in their place. A public question designed to embarrass, a problem meant to humiliate, a grade that pushed them toward the exit. It always worked. For 2 decades, it always worked. The students would doubt themselves, drop out, transfer, disappear, and Whitaker would smile. Standards maintained, kingdom protected. He had no idea that Malik Parker was different. That this quiet black kid from the south side of Chicago carried something Whitaker couldn't imagine. A gift inherited from a man Whitaker had destroyed decades ago. A man named Damien Parker. Malik's father. Malik walked into class like every other day, backpack over one shoulder, eyes down, invisible. He took his usual seat, back row, far corner, the chair that faced the exit. 40 other students filled the room, mostly juniors and seniors, mostly white, mostly from families that could afford Briarwood's $50,000 tuition. Malik was the exception. Scholarship kid, work-study, night shifts at a warehouse to cover what financial aid didn't. He didn't complain. He just showed up, did the work, stayed invisible. Professor Whitaker was already at the front, chalk in hand, a strange energy in the room. "Good afternoon, class." His voice had an edge, a sharpness that made students sit up straighter. "Today we're going to have some fun." A few students exchanged glances. Fun in Whitaker's class usually meant someone was about to suffer. Whitaker smiled, the kind of smile that made you want to run. "I have a challenge problem, something special, something I've kept for years." He walked to the board, drew a line across it with the chalk. "Anyone who solves this equation gets automatic extra credit, enough to guarantee an A for the semester no matter what." Whispers rippled through the room. An automatic A in Whitaker's class? That had never happened. Ever. But here's the catch. The whispers died. If you try and fail, and you will fail, you drop 1 full letter grade immediately. No appeals, no second chances. Silence. Nobody moved. Nobody volunteered. Whitaker scanned the room, his eyes moving from face to face, searching for something. Then his gaze stopped. Back row, far corner. Malik. "Mr. Parker." Malik's stomach dropped. "Son? You've been very quiet this semester, sitting back there doing the minimum, almost like you're hiding something." A few students turned around, staring, judging. "Stand up." Malik stood slowly. "Come to the front. Let's see what you've really got." Malik walked forward, each step heavier than the last. He could feel the eyes on him, 40 students watching, waiting for him to fail. Whitaker handed him the chalk. Their fingers touched for a moment. Whitaker's skin was cold. This is an equation from an old paper. Mathematicians have worked on it for decades. PhD students have tried. Professors have tried. Nobody has solved it. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper only Malik could hear. Between you and me, I don't think you'll last 30 seconds. Then louder for the class. 5 minutes, Mr. Parker. Impress me or drop my class today. Whitaker turned to the board and started writing. The equation that would destroy his career. The chalk squeaked against the blackboard, numbers and symbols spreading like a virus. It was complex, layered, the kind of problem that made experienced mathematicians sweat. A modified Diophantine equation. Variables tangled together like a puzzle designed by someone cruel. Notation that most undergraduates wouldn't even recognize. Whitaker stepped back, admired his work, crossed his arms. Your 5 minutes starts now. Malik stared at the board. His heart should have been pounding. His hands should have been shaking. Every instinct should have told him to surrender, say he couldn't do it, sit back down, survive. But something else was happening. Something stirring in the back of his mind, a memory, a recognition. He'd seen this equation before in a notebook with his father's handwriting. The world narrowed. The classroom disappeared. The watching students faded to nothing. All Malik could see was the board. All he could hear was his father's voice. Numbers don't lie, son. People do. His father had worked on this exact problem decades ago, in notebooks that nobody else had ever seen. And in the margin, 3 words. Solved. Method C. Malik remembered the solution, every step, every transformation, every elegant twist that made the impossible possible. He raised the chalk. What are you doing? Whitaker laughed. Don't embarrass yourself, just admit you can't. Malik started writing. His hand moved with certainty. Numbers flowing, symbols aligning. His approach was unconventional, nothing like the textbook methods, nothing like anything Whitaker had ever seen. Because it wasn't from a textbook, it was from a dead man's notebook, a method that had never been published, never been shared until now. Whitaker's smile disappeared. Sir, 30 seconds. Malik kept writing. One student leaned forward, then another. Something was happening. Something unexpected. 60 seconds. The board was filling up, the solution taking shape. Whitaker stepped closer, his face pale, his eyes scanning the work. That method, that's not... Where did you... Malik didn't respond, didn't slow down, didn't look back. 90 seconds. He set down the chalk, stepped back, turned around. Done. 94 seconds. That's how long it took to solve an equation that had stumped mathematicians for 40 years. The classroom was frozen. Whitaker stared at the board, his eyes moving across the solution, checking, rechecking, looking for a mistake. There wasn't one. The solution was complete, correct, elegant. That's not possible. Whitaker's voice cracked. That's not... You couldn't... It's correct, sir. Malik's voice was steady. You can verify it. One student started clapping, then another, then more. Stop! Whitaker raised his hand. Everyone stop! The applause died, but the damage was done. A 19-year-old black student from the South Side had just solved what a tenured professor couldn't, in front of 40 witnesses. Whitaker spun around, face red, hands trembling. Where did you learn that method? That approach isn't in any textbook. My father taught me. Your father? Whitaker's voice changed, something flickering behind his eyes. Who is your father? His name was Damien Parker. He died when I was 6. For 1 second, just one, Whitaker's mask shattered. Fear, recognition, something that looked almost like panic. Then it was gone, replaced by ice. Class dismissed. Everyone out. Now. Students grabbed their bags, rushed for the door. Malik didn't move. "Mr. Parker." Whitaker's voice was barely controlled. "You'll be hearing from me." Words spread like wildfire. By dinner, half the campus was talking. The story grew with each retelling. "Did you hear? Some sophomore solved Whitaker's impossible equation in under 2 minutes. Made the old man lose his mind. A black kid from Chicago, never said a word all semester. Then boom." Students who'd never taken a math class were discussing it. Malik Parker, the quiet one from the back row, the guy who made Harlan Whitaker look like a fool. Malik wanted nothing to do with it. He went back to his apartment, locked the door, pulled the blinds, tried to become invisible again. It didn't work. His phone kept buzzing. Messages from classmates he'd never talked to, friend requests from people he didn't know. He ignored them all. What he couldn't ignore was the feeling in his gut. Something was wrong. The way Whitaker had looked at him when he said his father's name, that wasn't surprise. That was recognition. That was fear. 2 days later, Malik learned why. The email arrived. Subject: academic integrity violation. Immediate meeting required. Malik read it 3 times. Each time the words hit harder. Academic integrity violation. That meant cheating. That meant expulsion. That meant everything he'd worked for, gone. He walked into Whitaker's office at 4 o'clock sharp. The door closed behind him like a coffin lid. Whitaker sat behind his desk, calm, controlled. A stack of papers arranged perfectly in front of him. "Sit down, Mr. Parker." Malik sat. The chair was uncomfortable, probably on purpose. "Let me be direct with you." Whitaker's voice was smooth, professional. "Your performance in my classroom 2 days ago has raised serious concerns." "Concerns?" "Your solution to that equation was too perfect, too fast, too sophisticated for someone of your background." Malik felt heat rising in his chest. "My background? Let me put it plainly." Whitaker leaned forward. "No sophomore solves a problem like that in 90 seconds. Not without help. Not without cheating. I didn't cheat." "Then explain it." Whitaker spread his hands. "Explain how a 19-year-old from the south side of Chicago, working night shifts at a warehouse, barely scraping by on financial aid, somehow solves a problem that defeated professional mathematicians for 40 years. Malik kept his voice steady, but inside he was shaking. "I told you in class. My father taught me." "Ah, yes. Your father, the dead mathematician." Whitaker's lips curled. "Convenient, isn't it? A witness who can never be questioned. It's the truth." "Here's what I think is the truth, Mr. Parker." Whitaker pulled a document from the stack. "I think you found that solution somewhere online, in an old journal somewhere. You memorized it, waited for your moment, and played the hero in front of my class." He slid the document across the desk. "This is a formal academic integrity complaint. I'm filing it with the dean's office today. You have 2 weeks to prove you didn't cheat." Whitaker smiled. "If you can't, and let's be honest, you can't, you'll be expelled permanently. Your transcript marked forever. Your future. Well, let's just say you might want to keep that warehouse job." Malik's hands clenched, but his voice stayed calm. "I learned that method from my father's notebooks. He was a mathematician. He worked on that exact problem." Something flickered in Whitaker's eyes. Just for a moment. "Your father's notebooks?" "Yes." "And what was your father's name again?" "Damien. Damien Parker." The flicker became a crack. Whitaker's mask slipping for just a second. "I've never heard of him." His voice was too quick, too defensive. "He studied mathematics. He was brilliant." Everyone said. "I said I've never heard of him." Whitaker stood abruptly. "This meeting is over. You'll receive formal notice of the hearing within 48 hours. He walked to the door, opened it. I suggest you withdraw now. Save yourself the humiliation of a public expulsion, because that's what's coming, Mr. Parker, I guarantee it. Malik stood. His legs felt weak, but he held Whitaker's gaze. I didn't cheat, and I'm not withdrawing. Then you're a fool. Just like... Whitaker stopped himself, but not fast enough. Just like who? Malik asked. Get out of my office. Malik left. But as he walked down the hallway, one thought consumed him. Just like who? Whitaker knew something about his father, about the past, something he was desperate to keep buried. That night, Malik made a phone call that unlocked everything. Mom, I need to ask you something about Dad. Silence. Long. Heavy. Why are you bringing this up now, Malik? Because a professor at Briarwood is trying to expel me. He's accusing me of cheating. And when I said Dad's name... Malik paused. He looked terrified, like he'd seen a ghost. More silence. Then a sound Malik hadn't heard in years. His mother crying. What's the professor's name? Whitaker. Harlan Whitaker. A sharp intake of breath. A muffled sob. Mom, what is it? What happened? Come home this weekend, Malik? Her voice was shaking. There are things I should have told you a long time ago. Things about your father. Things about that man. What things? Not over the phone. Come home, please. The line went dead. Malik sat in his apartment, his father's notebooks surrounding him. The handwriting he'd memorized, the equations he'd studied for years. He opened the oldest one. The first page, faded pencil, Briarwood University fall semester. His father had studied here, at this university, in this department, decades ago. He flipped through the pages, searching. Near the back, a page torn out. Only fragments remained, but one word was visible. Whitaker. Whatever happened between them, it destroyed his father's life, and now it was threatening to destroy his. Malik drove home that weekend. 4 hours through rain and empty highways. His mother was waiting at the kitchen table, a cardboard box in front of her. The box Malik had never been allowed to open. I kept this hidden. Denise Parker's voice was barely a whisper. I thought if you never knew, you'd be safe. Safe from what, Mom? She opened the box. Inside, letters, documents, photographs. A young man with Malik's eyes, Malik's smile, a face he barely remembered. Your father was a student at Briarwood decades ago. Denise's hands trembled. He was the most brilliant mathematician in his program. Everyone said he'd change the world. What happened to him? His advisor happened. She pulled out a letter, yellow with age. Dear Mr. Parker, following the investigation into academic misconduct, your enrollment at Briarwood University is hereby terminated. Malik read the signature at the bottom. Harlan Whitaker, department chair. His blood ran cold. Whitaker was Dad's advisor. More than that. His mother wiped her eyes. Your father developed a solution, a breakthrough. The same equation you solved in that classroom. He was going to publish it, make his name, change everything, and Whitaker stole it. Yes. Denise's voice broke. He took Damien's work, published it under his own name, built his entire career on it. And when your father tried to fight back, he was accused of plagiarism, his own work. Malik felt the room spinning. But there was one more question I had to ask. How did Dad die, Mom? Denise couldn't look at him. Please, I need to know. You were 6 years old. Her voice cracked. He tried to move on, got a job, married me, had you. But the injustice ate at him. The knowledge that his life's work had someone else's name on it. She finally met his eyes. He left a note. Said he couldn't fight anymore. Said the system had won. And then he... She couldn't finish. Malik understood. His father hadn't just died. He'd been killed slowly, deliberately, by a man who stole his work, destroyed his reputation, and walked away clean. And that man was still teaching, still powerful, still destroying students, now trying to destroy Malik. "I'm not going to let him win again, Mom." "Malik, please, just transfer. Walk away. Don't let him do to you what he did to your father." Malik shook his head. Dad walked away. He gave up, and it killed him. He stood. "I'm going to finish what he started. And I'm going to make Harlan Whitaker pay for every life he destroyed." The next 2 weeks were the worst of Malik's life. He filed his appeal. The university required new evidence, evidence that Whitaker had spent decades burying. The Academic Integrity Office gave him 14 days, 2 weeks to prove he wasn't a cheater, 2 weeks to expose a crime older than he was. It was never going to be enough. The whispers started immediately. "That's the kid who cheated in Whitaker's class. Heard he stole the solution from somewhere online. Typical affirmative action fraud. They always get caught eventually." Students who'd never spoken to Malik suddenly had opinions about him. His study group stopped responding to messages. His lab partner requested a transfer. Professors who'd smiled at him before now looked through him like glass. The warehouse where he worked gave him extra shifts. "Since you'll have more time soon," his manager said with a knowing smirk. "Heard you're having some trouble at school." Malik didn't ask how he'd heard. Bad news traveled fast, especially when someone powerful was spreading it. He stopped going to class. What was the point? Every lecture felt like a trial. Every professor a potential witness against him. He spent his nights alone, surrounded by his father's notebooks, searching for something that could save him. The notebooks that had taught him everything. The notebooks that had raised him. The notebooks that nobody believed were real. How do you prove a dead man's work is authentic? How do you fight a system designed to protect the powerful? Malik didn't know. And every day his hearing got closer. Then came the letter that nearly broke him completely. "Dear Mr. Parker, your appeal hearing has been scheduled during the holiday break. Please note this date falls when the campus is largely empty. Faculty advocates and student representatives may have limited availability." Malik read it 5 times. Each time the message got clearer. They'd scheduled his hearing when the campus was empty, when witnesses wouldn't be around, when no one would be watching. This wasn't justice. This was an execution. Malik tried to fight back. He called everyone he could think of. The Academic Integrity Office was closed for the holiday. The Student Advocacy Center, voicemail, legal aid. "We'll call you back after the break." The Dean's office. The schedule is non-negotiable due to the serious nature of the allegations. Every door closed, every avenue blocked, every hope crushed. Malik sat in his apartment, the walls closing in. His father's notebooks spread around him like tombstones. For the first time he understood why his father gave up, why he couldn't fight anymore, why he'd written that final note. The system wasn't broken, it was designed this way. Built to protect people like Whitaker, built to crush people like Damien Parker, like Malik. "Maybe Mom was right," he whispered to the empty room. "Maybe I should just walk away." That's when he found the envelope. At the bottom of his father's box, underneath everything else, a sealed envelope, yellowed with age. "To Malik when he's old enough." His father's handwriting. The same handwriting from the notebooks. Malik's hand shook as he opened it. "Son, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger. They took everything from me, my work, my name, my future, my will to fight." Tears blurred Malik's vision. "But they couldn't take you, and they couldn't take what's in your blood. You have the gift. I saw it when you were just a baby. The way your eyes followed patterns, the way you reached for my notebooks before you could even walk." Malik kept reading. his father's voice reaching across the decades. One day you'll be better than I ever was. And when they come for you, because they will, don't make my mistake. Don't disappear. Don't give them the satisfaction. The next words hit him like a fist. Fight, even when it hurts, even when you're alone, even when the whole world says you can't win. Fight, because giving up isn't peace. It's just another kind of death. Malik held the letter to his chest. His father had known. Even before Malik was born, he'd known this day would come. And he'd told Malik exactly what to do. Malik didn't sleep that night. Instead, he worked, organizing his father's notebooks, dating every page, cross-referencing every equation with Whitaker's publications. The pattern was undeniable. Damien Parker's work came first. Whitaker was the thief. But Malik knew the evidence alone wasn't enough. Not against a tenured professor with decades of institutional protection, not in a system designed to bury people like him. He needed someone inside, someone with credentials, someone Whitaker couldn't silence. Malik opened his laptop, searched the Briarwood faculty directory, looking for an ally. One name caught his attention. Dr. Simone Ellis, Associate Professor of Applied Mathematics, MIT PhD, one of 3 black faculty members at Briarwood, the only one in the mathematics department. He'd heard stories about her. She didn't play politics, didn't protect the old guard, had a reputation for fighting battles others wouldn't touch. Malik looked at the clock. Too early to call, but not too early to email. He started typing. Dr. Ellis, my name is Malik Parker. You don't know me, but I need your help. Professor Whitaker is accusing me of cheating, but I have evidence that he's been hiding something for decades. Something about my father, Damien Parker. Please, you're my last hope. He hit send. Then he waited. Minutes turned to hours. Hours turned to forever. Dr. Simone Ellis was 48, MIT PhD, published in journals most mathematicians only dreamed about. She'd survived 20 years in academia by being twice as good and 3 times as careful. She knew which battles to pick. She knew when to speak and when to stay silent. For decades, she'd stayed silent about Damien Parker, not anymore. Close the door, she said, and sit down. Malik sat. Tell me everything from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. Malik talked for 30 minutes. The equation, the humiliation, the accusation, his father's notebooks, the letter, everything. Dr. Ellis listened without interrupting, her face unreadable. When Malik finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she pointed to the photograph on her desk. You see that man? Second from the left. Malik looked. A young black man, brilliant smile, eyes full of hope. That's your father, Damien Parker. We were in the same doctoral program. Malik's heart stopped. You knew him? I knew him well. He was the most talented mathematician I'd ever met. Everyone said he'd change the field forever. Her voice dropped. And then Whitaker destroyed him. You saw what happened? I saw everything. Dr. Ellis stood, walked to her window, her back to Malik. Your father developed something extraordinary, a solution to a problem that had stumped mathematicians for decades. It was going to be his masterpiece, his ticket to everything. The equation Whitaker made me solve? The same one. She turned around. Whitaker was his advisor, had access to all of Damien's work, knew exactly what he was developing, and he stole it, published it under his own name, built his entire career on it, got tenure, got famous, got rich. Her voice hardened. And when your father tried to fight back, tried to prove the work was his, Whitaker accused him of plagiarism, his own work, and the university believed the tenured white professor over the young black graduate student. No investigation, no fair hearing, just destruction. Malik felt rage building. You were there. You could have said something. I know. Dr. Ellis's voice cracked. I was young, a black woman trying to survive in a department that barely tolerated my existence. Speaking up meant losing everything. She met his eyes. I've carried that guilt for decades. I wake up thinking about it, go to sleep thinking about it. Every time Whitaker walks past me in the hallway, I remember what I didn't do. Why are you helping me now? Because I'm tired of being a coward. Dr. Ellis sat back down. And because you have something your father never had. What? Proof that can't be ignored. She pulled a folder from her desk drawer. After you emailed me, I did some digging. University archives, department records, things Whitaker thought he'd buried forever. She opened the folder, spread documents across the desk. This is a research proposal your father submitted to the department. It describes the exact methodology that Whitaker published. Malik stared at the papers. His father's name, his father's work dated before Whitaker's publication. And this. Dr. Ellis pulled out another document. This is a formal complaint your father filed alleging that Whitaker stole his research. Malik read it. His father's words, his father's pain, preserved on paper for decades. The complaint was dismissed. Insufficient evidence. Your father was expelled 2 weeks later. So Whitaker has done this before, Malik said, and gotten away with it for decades. But here's the thing. Dr. Ellis leaned forward. Your father's notebooks. If we can prove they're authentic, that they weren't fabricated, then Whitaker's entire defense collapses. How do we prove that? We don't. We get someone else to prove it. Someone whose credentials are so impeccable that the university can't ignore them. She picked up her phone. My doctoral advisor, Dr. Theodore Lang, MIT Emeritus, Fields Medal nominee, the most respected mathematician in the country. If he says your abilities are real, nobody can argue. Will he help? I don't know. He's 71, semi-retired, doesn't take meetings. She started dialing. But for something like this, for a chance to right a decades-old wrong, he might make an exception. The phone rang once, twice. A voice answered. Malik couldn't hear the conversation, just Dr. Ellis's side. Theodore, it's Simone. Yes, I know it's been a while. I need a favor. A big one. Academic fraud. Decades old. The victim's son. Yes, I'm certain. His name is Parker. Damien Parker's son. Silence on the other end. Then Dr. Ellis smiled. Thank you. I'll send everything tonight. She hung up. Dr. Lang is assembling a panel. 3 mathematicians, independent evaluation. You have 48 hours to prepare. Malik felt hope for the first time in weeks. What's the catch? One of the panel members, Dr. Marcus Ellington from Princeton, he was at Briarwood back then. Malik's blood ran cold. He knew my father? Possibly. They were in the same program. Dr. Ellis's expression darkened. He might be a witness, or he might be another one of Whitaker's allies. I don't know which. Malik stood. 48 hours. 3 mathematicians. 1 chance. Dr. Ellis nodded. If you pass their test, the plagiarism charge collapses. If you fail... She didn't need to finish. Malik knew exactly what was at stake. A conference room in downtown Briarwood. Neutral ground. No university administrators. No Whitaker. Just 3 mathematicians and Malik. The panel sat at a long table. Malik faced them alone. Dr. Theodore Lang, 71, MIT Emeritus, Fields Medal nominee. White hair, sharp eyes, the kind of presence that made everyone else in the room feel smaller. Dr. Vanessa Klein, 55, Stanford, cryptography expert, known for her brutal honesty and zero tolerance for excuses. Dr. Marcus Ellington, 62, Princeton, number theory, and Malik now knew, a Briarwood graduate from the year his father was destroyed. Ellington's face was unreadable. Friend or enemy, Malik couldn't tell. Dr. Lang spoke first. "Mr. Parker, you understand the purpose of this evaluation?" "Yes, sir." "We're here to determine if your mathematical abilities are genuine. If you solved that equation through skill or through fraud." Lang's voice was cold, clinical. "We have no stake in the outcome. We're not here to save you or condemn you. We're here for the truth." Malik nodded. "Good, then let's begin. Elliptic curves, graduate level difficulty, the kind of problem that separated students from scholars." Malik picked up his pencil. For a moment his hand trembled. The weight of everything pressing down, his father's legacy, his own future, decades of buried truth. Then he heard the voice, his father's voice, the fragment he'd carried since childhood. "Numbers don't lie, son. People do." His hand steadied. He began to write. The first problem took 43 minutes. Expected time, 90 minutes. Dr. Klein raised an eyebrow, made a note. The second problem, modular arithmetic with cryptographic applications, more complex, more demanding. Malik found an elegant shortcut, a method that wasn't in any textbook, a method from his father's notebooks. 1 hour, 8 minutes. Dr. Lang leaned forward, watching intently. The third problem, open-ended proof construction. No right answer, just demonstration of mathematical thinking. This was where most students failed, where raw talent mattered more than memorization. Malik closed his eyes, thought of his father's approach. Sideways, unexpected, beautiful. He opened his eyes and wrote. 3 hours and 22 minutes. Malik set down his pencil. "Done." The panel collected his work, conferred in whispers. Malik sat motionless, his fate in their hands. Dr. Ellington studied the pages longest, his expression troubled, not suspicious, something else, something that looked almost like guilt. Finally, Dr. Lang spoke. "We'll need 30 minutes to review. Wait outside." Malik walked into the hallway. Dr. Ellis was waiting. "How did it go?" "I don't know." His voice was hollow. "I did my best." "That's all you can do." They waited. 30 minutes became 45, then an hour. Every second felt like a verdict. Then the door opened and Dr. Ellington stood there, alone, with something to say. "Mr. Parker, can I speak with you privately?" Dr. Ellis tensed. "Whatever you have to say, this is personal." Malik followed him to a corner of the hallway, away from the door, away from ears. Ellington couldn't meet his eyes. "I knew your father." Malik's heart stopped. "We were in the same program. He was the best of us. The most brilliant mathematician I'd ever met. Everyone knew he was going to do something extraordinary." "What happened?" "Whitaker happened." Ellington's hands were shaking. "Your father developed a solution, revolutionary work, and Whitaker stole it, claimed it as his own. You knew?" "Everyone knew." Ellington finally looked up. His eyes were wet. "When Whitaker accused your father of plagiarism, we all knew it was a lie. But Whitaker had power, tenure, connections, and we were scared." Malik felt rage building. "You let him destroy my father?" "Yes." Ellington's voice broke. "I've carried that guilt for decades. I told myself it wasn't my business, that your father must have done something wrong, but I knew. I always knew." He reached into his jacket, pulled out an envelope. "This is my written statement, everything I witnessed, everything I should have said back then." Malik took the envelope, his hands trembling. "Why now?" "Because I saw you in that room. I saw you solve those problems, and I realized—" Ellington wiped his eyes. "You're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for him. for a man who deserved better, a man we all failed. He straightened up. I'm not failing him again. I'm changing my assessment, and I'm testifying against Whitaker. Malik held the envelope, a confession decades in the making, but would it be enough? The door opened again. Dr. Lang emerged. Mr. Parker, we're ready. Malik walked back in, Dr. Ellis beside him, Ellington taking his seat with the others. Dr. Lang held Malik's test papers. Mr. Parker, in 43 years of mathematics, I have evaluated thousands of students from MIT, Princeton, Cambridge, the finest institutions in the world. He paused. Your work today is exceptional. Problem 1, completed in half the expected time. Problem 2, you used a method I've only seen in advanced research. Problem 3, your proof construction shows original thinking at a professional level. Malik held his breath. It is my professional opinion that you are not a fraud. You are a genuine mathematical talent. Dr. Klein nodded. Agreed. The accusations against you are baseless. Dr. Ellington stood. And I am prepared to provide testimony regarding events I witnessed decades ago, events that explain how Professor Whitaker obtained the work he has claimed as his own for decades. Malik exhaled. The first real breath he'd taken in weeks. Dr. Lang looked directly at him. Mr. Parker, your father would be proud. The hearing room was cold, formal, designed to intimidate. On one side, Malik, Dr. Ellis, and a stack of evidence. On the other, Professor Harlan Whitaker, confident, smiling, certain of victory. He didn't know what was coming. This is a simple case. Whitaker's voice was smooth, practiced. Mr. Parker submitted a solution that no undergraduate could possibly derive independently. He refuses to explain how he obtained it. The only logical conclusion is academic dishonesty. He spread his hands. I take no pleasure in this, but Briarwood has standards, and those standards must be maintained. The dean turned to Malik. Mr. Parker, your response? Malik stood, his voice steady. I didn't cheat. I couldn't have, because the method I used came from my father's notebooks. Notebooks dated years before Professor Whitaker published the same solution under his own name. Whitaker's smile flickered. Objection. Those notebooks could have been fabricated. Then explain this. Dr. Ellis stood, placed a document on the table. This is a research proposal submitted by Damien Parker to the Briarwood Mathematics Department. It describes the exact methodology that Professor Whitaker published. She placed another document beside it. This is a formal complaint filed by Damien Parker alleging that his advisor, Professor Whitaker, stole his work and claimed credit. Whitaker's face went pale. Those documents are irrelevant. Damien Parker was a proven plagiarist who... Damien Parker was my father. Malik's voice cut through the room. And he didn't plagiarize anyone. He was the victim. Dr. Ellis continued. We have independent verification of Mr. Parker's abilities. 3 mathematicians, Dr. Theodore Lang of MIT, Dr. Vanessa Klein of Stanford, and Dr. Marcus Ellington of Princeton, evaluated him. All 3 concluded that Malik Parker is a genuine mathematical talent. All 3 stated that the plagiarism accusation is baseless. Whitaker was sweating now. Those evaluations prove nothing about where he learned. There's more. Dr. Ellis's voice hardened. Dr. Ellington has provided a sworn statement. She slid the document across the table. Ellington's confession. Dr. Ellington was a graduate student at Briarwood. He witnessed Professor Whitaker take credit for Damien Parker's work. He witnessed the false accusations. He witnessed the cover-up. Whitaker stood abruptly. This is hearsay. Ellington is lying. He was never... Sit down, Professor Whitaker. The dean's voice was ice. You'll have your chance to respond. Whitaker sat, his hands trembling. Malik stepped forward. My father was 21 years old when Professor Whitaker destroyed his life. He was accused of stealing his own work, expelled, blacklisted. He never recovered. His voice cracked. He took his own life when I was 6 years old because of what this man did to him. Malik pointed at Whitaker. And now, decades later, he tried to do the same thing to me. Because I walked into his classroom, because I solved an equation, because he couldn't stand that a black kid from the South Side knew something he never could. Dr. Lang's video testimony played on the screen. I have reviewed Malik Parker's work extensively. His abilities are extraordinary. His methods align precisely with the research documented in his father's notebooks. Research that predates Professor Whitaker's published work by over a year. Lang looked directly into the camera. It is my professional opinion that Professor Harlan Whitaker has built his career on stolen work, and his accusation against Malik Parker is not just false. It is a continuation of fraud that began decades ago. The video ended. The room was silent. The dean looked at Whitaker. Professor Whitaker, do you have anything to say? Whitaker opened his mouth, closed it. For the first time in 23 years, he had nothing. The dean nodded. The charge of academic dishonesty against Malik Parker is dismissed, effective immediately, and an investigation will be opened into Professor Harlan Whitaker regarding allegations of research misconduct, fraudulent accusations, and abuse of academic authority. Malik exhaled. Decades. Finally, justice. Before the hearing adjourned, Malik stood one last time. I didn't come here for revenge. He looked at Whitaker, the man who had killed his father slowly, who had tried to do the same to him. I came here for my father's name. His voice was steady now, certain. Damien Parker was a brilliant mathematician. He was 21 years old when his life was stolen. His work was taken, his reputation destroyed, his name erased. Malik held up his father's notebook. He deserved to be remembered, not as a fraud, not as a cautionary tale, but as what he really was, a genius who changed mathematics, even if nobody knew it. He set the notebook on the table. That changes today. The investigation took 3 months. 4 cases of research misconduct confirmed. 3 former students came forward with similar stories. 2 decades of stolen work exposed. Whitaker's tenure was revoked, not resigned, stripped. His publications flagged, his awards rescinded, his name removed from the scholarship he'd founded. He wasn't fired. What happened was worse. He was erased. From journals, from conferences, from the department he'd ruled for 23 years. The last anyone heard, he was teaching remedial math at a community college 2 states away, making $40,000 a year, living in a 1-bedroom apartment. He'd tried to make Malik invisible. Now he was the one nobody wanted to see. Briarwood University officially credited Damien Parker as the original author of the paper. The Association of American Mathematicians issued a formal correction. Decades of lies undone in a single statement. A scholarship was established in his name, the Damien Parker Mathematics Scholarship, funding first-generation college students, kids from the South Side, kids from Section 8 housing, kids like Malik. In the spring, Malik published his first paper. The impossible equation solved his way. The dedication read, "For my father, Damien Parker, who solved this first, who taught me that numbers don't lie, and who deserved so much more than he got." Dr. Simone Ellis was promoted to department chair 2 years later, the first black woman to hold the position at Briarwood. Dr. Marcus Ellington donated his entire savings to the Damien Parker Scholarship. Penance, he called it, for decades of silence. Briarwood created an independent review board for academic integrity cases. No more closed-door hearings, no more holiday scheduling, no more tenured professors judging their own victims. Mandatory bias training for all faculty. Anonymous reporting systems for students. 3 other universities adopted similar policies, citing the Parker case. One student, one equation, one family's buried truth, and a system that would never work quite the same way again. Malik's mother framed the newspaper article, hung it in the living room. Local student exposes decades of academic fraud. Father's legacy restored. Below it, she placed a photograph, the one from the box. Damien Parker at 21, smiling, full of hope, finally seen. A year later, Malik stood in front of a classroom, not as a student, as a teaching assistant. Same room where Whitaker had tried to humiliate him, same board where he'd solved the impossible equation. Different energy now. In the back row, a black sophomore sat alone, quiet, invisible, just like Malik used to be. After class, Malik approached him. "You're good at this. I've seen your problem sets." The student looked surprised. "You noticed?" "Someone always notices." Malik smiled. "Sometimes they try to tear you down, but sometimes they're there to lift you up." He handed the student a notebook, a copy of his father's work. "This helped me. Maybe it'll help you." Here's what this story is really about. It's not about mathematics. It's about power. Who has it? Who doesn't? And what happens when someone with power decides you don't belong? Harlan Whitaker looked at Malik and saw a target, a black kid from the South Side, someone to mock, to humiliate, to destroy. He didn't see a prodigy. He didn't see a legacy. He didn't see a son carrying his dead father's dream. He didn't know who he was dealing with. And that's the thing about underestimating people. Eventually, they prove you wrong. Whitaker learned that the hard way. Decades of lies, decades of stolen brilliance, all of it undone in 94 seconds by a student he thought didn't belong. Maybe someone looked at you and decided you didn't fit, made you feel invisible, told you, directly or not, that you weren't good enough because of your skin color, your background, your accent, your neighborhood. Maybe you're still waiting for your 94 seconds. Here's what I want you to know. It's coming. The people who underestimate you, they don't know what you carry, what you've survived, what you're capable of. They see your surface. They don't see your depth. Keep going. Keep fighting. And when your moment comes, make them learn the hard way. So let me ask you, have you ever been underestimated because of how you looked or where you came from? What happened? Have you ever had a Whitaker in your life? Someone who tried to make you feel small? Is there a Damien Parker in your story? Someone whose truth deserves to be told? Drop your answers in the comments. Tell me your story. The best ones might become future episodes. And if this story moved you, if it made you angry or hopeful or reminded you of your own fight, share it. Share it with someone who's been underestimated, someone who's fighting to be seen, someone who needs to know that the truth has a way of coming out, even if it takes decades. Subscribe because justice isn't given, it's taken. And remember this. A professor didn't know the black student in his class was a math prodigy. He wrote an impossible equation to mock him, to humiliate him, to prove that kids like him don't belong. 94 seconds later, he learned exactly who he was dealing with, the hard way. This has been the story of Malik Parker. Stay just.